Hello everyone, and welcome to the Lift as You Rise Emotional Intelligence Show, a show where we help you grow through what you go through. Hello once again, and welcome to the Lift as You Rise Emotional Intelligence Show, a show where we help you grow through what you go through. This time around, after having an overwhelming response from you guys, we've decided to do our next episode, development from the 5 love languages. Last time we were looking at 5 love languages in relationships. Today, we're going to be looking at how God speaks your love language. Now, we're going to do it the other way around. We've got Sheila again today.
Hi.
It's my pleasure to have you, Sheila.
It's my pleasure to be here, and it's great to be back. The other show was so amazing. Like, even though I was being interviewed and part of it, I still went back and listened to it and watched it just to educate myself. So I'm really excited to do this episode with you today and hopefully learn some really important things about how God speaks to us and how love languages applies to that area of my life and hopefully other people's lives.
Excellent, thank you. Now, today Sheila is going to be presenting, and it will be more of a dialogue, to be honest. So we're going to be talking about how God speaks our love language. So I'll hand it over to you, Sheila.
Thank you very much. So let's get started, really. I think it would be great for everybody to recap themselves, especially from the last episode, to have a recap of what are the 5 love languages and, just a brief definition so we'll know what we're talking about when we get into the real nuts and cracks of things. So if you just want to recap for everybody, what are the 5 love languages?
I personally believe the 5 love languages are not just something that you would like to hear or something that's good to hear, but it's something that we must hear. Now, the first one is words of affirmation. This is basically when you're able to say something to someone that makes them feel good. The second one,
like, you look good today. I like the way you've done your hair and your jewelry.
Thank you. Do you know, coincidentally, it's actually my love language.
Oh, okay.
I love the words of
like
affirmation.
To be complimented. And
yes, I love to be complimented.
Yes.
You can give me gifts, you can give me anything, but if you tell me the words, or if you put it on a card, it actually makes me feel good.
Better,
That's my language. It's like as if you're watering a flower.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, the second one, physical touch.
Yes.
This is just basically when you feel the presence of someone, be it through hugging, through kissing, or anything that involves any physical contact.
Yes.
Okay? The third one is receiving gifts or giving gifts.
Yes.
Some people, for you to show them that you love them, you give them gifts.
Yes.
To them, it's your way of saying, oh my God, they were thinking about me.
Yes, indeed.
They must really love me, or they must really be interested in me.
Yes, indeed.
And then the fourth one, quality time. Yes. Now, with quality time, like we said last week, it's not just about spending time together.
It's not just about being in the same room. Like, quality time is actually about tuning out from everything else and actually focusing on that person or focusing your time on that thing, rather than just necessarily being in the same presence. But it's actually the quality of that time, which is in the words itself, really. It's not just the time, it's the quality time.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Thank you. And then the last one is acts of service. This is when you serve each other, when you do things for each other.
Yes.
And for some people, if you do something for them, you've actually communicated your love with them.
Yes.
So I'm actually, that's probably my second love language.
Okay.
So for example, if my husband is going to work, for example, and then I notice that he's emptied the bin, the rubbish bin. I actually
that's a lovely, wonderful
act of service. That's actually good.
Yeah.
To me, I'm like, oh my God, you're so lovely. Isn't he so lovely?
Yes.
But that's my love language as well. So those are the 5.
And just touching on that and moving on from that, I picked up the fact that you said that that's your second language.
Yes.
So is there 2 languages, or is there a variety of languages in the love language, or if you want to just explain on us what you mean by that's my second language?
Okay, there's something called the primary love language and the secondary love language. Now, with the primary, it's like your native language.
Mm-hmm.
So that means it's that language. Whenever you speak in your native language,
Mm-hmm.
you're always going to have that dialect.
Right. Okay.
So, for
yeah.
example,
so it's
if
your
you're-
mother tongue. It's your primary thing that you
Yeah.
resort to. Yes.
It's your mother tongue. It's
Yes.
what makes you who you are.
Right.
So, in terms of love languages,
Mm-hmm.
this is basically your most important one from the 5.
Okay.
So, it's one of those which, if someone doesn't do that,
Yeah.
then they might as well not even show anything. Yeah.
Interesting. So I think, you know what, we've heard the briefs, we've heard the definitions. I think we need to get into the juicy part of this, which
Yes.
is love languages in Christian life, any other religion that people practice, and how your God or an individual's God speaks to them through the 5 love languages. So
Yes.
we're going to start off with an overview of what you would say how God speaks to you, and how God shows himself within the 5 love languages. If you want to give us examples from different ones, or you want to go in the same order from 1 to 5, but we just want to know, like, how does this apply to our religious life, and how can we have a relationship with God where we understand his love language and he understands ours?
Yes, that's such an insightful topic.
Mm-hmm.
I really love it. I was reading this book from Gary Chapman,
Okay.
which says, how does God speak your love languages?
Mm.
Now, the relationship between ourselves and God is always reciprocal when it comes to speaking the love languages.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean by that is God can actually speak your love languages,
Mm-hmm.
all the 5 love languages.
Wow.
And depending on what your love language is, you also can express yourself
Mm-hmm.
to God
Mm-hmm.
using those 5 love languages.
Okay, so I guess we'll go into it. We'll go into the order of the 5 love languages. Obviously, you've listed them. I'll try my best. I might need my little aid, but I'll try my best to remember them. But yeah, so first of all, I guess we'll deal with how God speaks to you and through words of affirmation.
Yes, thank you. I quite like that one because whenever I think of words of affirmation,
Mm-hmm.
it reminds me of the book of Acts
Mm-hmm.
and on the conversion of Paul,
Mm-hmm.
when Paul changed from being Paul to Saul.
Mm-hmm.
On his road to Damascus,
Mm-hmm.
he
From Saul to
actually,
Paul, but
yes,
yes.
yes. On his road to Damascus,
Mm-hmm.
he actually experienced God.
Mm.
God actually, he had this religious experience
Mm-hmm.
where he saw God.
Mm-hmm.
He actually felt the presence of God.
Mm-hmm.
So some people can actually define it as physical touch
Mm-hmm.
as well as words of
The
affirmation.
Mm-hmm.
The physical touch, it's when he actually felt God
The
within
spirit.
his body.
Yes.
And he actually fell over,
Yes.
and then God then affirmed his presence to him.
And I guess that happens within our Christian life as individuals, or
Yes.
within any religious experience. You do have those moments sometimes where you're like, I felt the Holy Spirit, or I felt God within my presence. You know, when you're going through a distressing situation and you pray, there are certain prayers where the situation is so intense and emotional for you that at that moment in time you actually felt that God came and he said something to you, or he touched you.
Yes.
So yeah, that is, it's interesting to now see how it forms into a love language. But
Yes.
100%, I think we can all relate to the fact that we've had those experiences, or we know people who've had those experiences.
Yes, absolutely.
Mhm.
I'm so glad that in trying to explain the words of affirmation, we've actually spotted the physical touch, which is one of the love languages. And like you rightly said, sometimes people actually feel the presence of God.
Yeah.
In Pentecostal churches or in some churches, people have actually claimed that they've actually felt his presence in their bodies. Some people have actually had to fall over because they believe that God has
Overwhelmed by the
touched
Spirit.
them.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, in terms of back to the words of affirmation, there's a lot of other verses as well in the Bible. A good example, typical example, is where God says, you're fearfully and wonderfully made. Remember,
Yes.
we said it's when you hear something that's going to make you feel loved.
100%.
Now, a lot of people, when they're going through problems in life, when they read that part which says, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made, it just boosts their confidence and it helps them to actually stand up and
100%.
face whatever problems they are facing because God has spoken to them.
Yes, and God has reaffirmed us, and we live by His words, so we take those words as truth to us, and they give us the strength, like you say, to go on and get through a tough situation. They affirm us that without God, we won't be able to conquer, but He is there, and He's affirming us that He's with us. So I get 100% where words of affirmation comes in, especially with that verse.
Yes,
it's an amazing verse.
Absolutely. Another verse under words of affirmation as well is the one which says, consider the birds of the air. They neither toil nor spin, and yet God looks after them.
So what more you?
Yes, yes. So all that is God talking to us, using those love languages, and saying to us, listen, I'm with you.
Yes.
I love you.
Yes.
And I want you to be safe.
Yes.
I want to protect you. I know the plans I have for you. They're plans to prosper.
I love that verse,
and
Jeremiah
not
29,
to harm
verse
you.
11. Amen.
I live by that verse.
Yes.
I've gone through a lot of difficulties or obstacles in life. Do you know what? Each time I've thought of the fact that God has plans for me. Not just that, but they're plans to prosper
me,
not to harm me.
Yes.
And me having to actually live on the other side where I actually experience those plans that God has for me. That's words of affirmation, and I think that's very powerful.
Wow.
And that's one of the reasons why I started this show. We grow through what we go through, which means God actually helps us as we are doing that through the love languages.
Wow, amazing, amazing. We could spend forever on words of affirmation.
Yes.
Obviously, we've touched on physical touch,
Yes.
but I guess we can expand on that just slightly because we've already said some things about that. If we finish off physical touch as well, and then we'll move on to the third one. So, in terms of physical touch, obviously we've spoken about the spirit, how it can touch you in prayer, how you can feel God's presence through the spirit. Are there any other examples that you think in terms of physical touch where we can understand that love language between us and God in physical touch, or it can be reciprocated by us?
I think just like you rightly said, a classical example is when people have gone into church. For most of the religious leaders, the way they start their religions, they always experience God touching them. Bishop Olathon, he was living the life of a sailor. And then one day he just decided he was going to follow some of the guys he used to work with to church.
Yeah.
And according to his description, when he entered the church, he felt something in his body. And that was the presence of God. To me, that's God touching him. And like I said, usually it resonates with your own love language as well. If your primary love language is physical touch, it actually determines how you detect how God speaks to you.
Right, yeah, so you're more drawn to that because that's for you is what you look for. And I think sometimes, from a personal experience as well, when you go to different churches, everybody looks for different things, which is why people worship in different places. Some people prefer to have more one-to-one time. They like quieter churches where things are not as loud. Some people like music, some people like singing, some people like churches where maybe there's a lot of praying and you get hands laid on you. People have different ways that they relate to God in different ways. So again, that's how the love languages, I guess, can be incorporated. However, maybe the predominant way your denomination expresses their love for God is what you then attracted to, because that's your love language. So the same thing as choosing a partner. Sometimes choosing a church is just as challenging because you need to get somewhere where it will bring the best in you as a person and bring out the best in you as a person. And I guess you have to know your love language and how you relate to God. And what church can serve that purpose for you.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, amazing.
Yes.
Wow,
absolutely.
okay, so we're going to move on to quality time. I've got a few things, even though I'm not the one with the knowledge here, but you're giving me so much information that I'm actually feeling like I'm understanding this. But I have a few examples. But if I let you go first, how do you think quality time fits in with?
Some people believe their idea of showing God their love language is to spend time in church. And when they're in church, they're not just thinking about what they had for supper or what shift they've got tomorrow, but they're actually absorbed in what they're doing. As soon as they get home, each time they're by themselves, they find themselves meditating upon the word and thinking about what God has in store for them. And half the time, those type of people,
Mm-hmm.
they actually hear God talking to them. And this is how God then spends quality time with you. So God can actually spend quality time with you. Some people do it through their calling. So going back to the example of Paul, when he was going on the road to Damascus, he did not have an intention to become a Christian, but God wanted to spend time with him. And during that time, God made sure that whatever he was thinking, whether he was going to persecute the Christians or whatever it is, all that was taken away from him, all he had was just him and God. So God can speak the love language by talking to you. But like I said, if you go to him and listen to what he has to say, that's spending quality time with him, because he's going to talk to you. Just like you have taken this time to listen to this.
Yes.
And I personally believe, even though it's Gettys and Sheila talking about this, it's actually God spending quality time with you. It's actually God talking to you, which is one of the love languages. And if you're not thinking about anything else as you're listening to this, that's God talking to you. And that's him spending quality time with you.
Which is good, because I love how it ties in, like you said, when we did our previous episode, quality time with your partner. It's not about sitting on the same sofa and being on your phones. It's about actually engaging with each other. So again, with God, it's not about going to church but having everything else on your mind. It's about you going to that place of worship and dedicating your mind to say, I'm in a sanctuary, I'm in a holy place, this is my time between me and God. Or again, like you say, if you're doing Bible study, not doing a Bible study whilst you're listening to some other music, or whilst you're chatting away with somebody else, giving that focus time for just you and God. So that's amazing how we don't realize that that's quality time, and that's a love language, and that's us showing to God that we also love him. Because love languages, I think, from what I understood on the last occasion, they're reciprocated. So you give love to somebody, they give love to you back. So, and if God loves you, you also have to show God the love. So he wants to see in you that, how does my child want to show love to me? Is she going to spend time with me? Is she going to give me words of affirmation when you pray and you're praising God and you're saying you are mighty, you are wonderful, you're glorious, you are giving him words of affirmation? So it's amazing.
It's amazing. Another classic example under quality time as well. If you look at the 10 commandments, one of them is, you shall not have any other gods apart from me. So that monotheistic aspect is you knowing that you're not going to have other gods but him. In Muslim, in the Muslim religion, they call it Tawhid, Tahwid. That's when they believe there's only one Allah and there's nobody else. So it's not just the God in Christianity, but other religions can actually resonate with these love languages as well.
Amazing. Wow. And so I think on the last one we are we've got two more. We've got acts of service and receiving gifts. So I think I like receiving gifts, so I'm going to go with that one. And what have you got to say about receiving gifts?
Oh, that's quite an interesting one. What I thought when I was looking at that particular love language is, how does God actually give you a gift? I realized that in the Bible, it says he gave you his only begotten son, so that if you believe in him, you've got that gift of eternal life. So that is a gift in itself.
Indeed.
And then I thought, oh, okay, what about for those people who prefer to see the gifts? And then I realized that actually I'm so blessed. A perfect example is I really wanted to have a daughter. And what I did, I'm going to share this with you. I think I've never shared it with anyone.
Wow.
But I really, really wanted to have a daughter in my life. Not that I didn't want to have any sons. But my wish, because my mom had loads of boys when I was growing up. And I always felt like, you know what, God, if you give me at least one girl for a child, I would be so grateful. So when I had my second son, I was praying for a daughter. And then when I had him, I felt felt like, oh, God hasn't answered my prayer.
Yes.
And then I just got carried away.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's it. I don't think God answers prayers.
Yes.
I knew he does.
Yes.
But I was like, well, I asked for him. Up
Yes.
until I realized that actually, it's not me giving God conditions. I'm asking for what I want.
Yes.
But he knows what I need.
Yes.
So I actually just forgot about having a daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And then I discovered I was pregnant. And by
Yes.
the time I discovered it, it was actually 11 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And guess what? That was my daughter.
Wow.
And then I remembered that I actually prayed for this gift.
Yes.
So that's why we called her Matipa, which
Yes.
means you've given us this gift.
Yes.
So God can actually speak your love language by giving you gifts
Yes.
through answered prayers,
Amen.
through anything that you ask for him, and he gives it to you.
Mm-hmm. And I think also in receiving gifts, we are all affirmed by God that each of us has got our own talents. We've got our own
Yes.
things that God gave in each and every person. Although you may look down on somebody, or that you may think somebody's beneath you, even that person has been given a specific purpose and a gift from God in terms of the purpose that they serve on this earth. So even in that in itself, as an individual, you should know that God gave you the gift, whether it's the obvious ones of singing or being able to play an instrument or whatever, or being athletic or being whatever. But there's also the gifts of being a good listener. There's also the gifts of being a giver. There's also the gifts of being someone that shows love and is there to enlighten the environment. So everybody's been given a gift by God, and that's a gift that we can say, I'm unique. This is unique to me. God gave this specific thing to me for me to share with others. But again, to me, that's another way that I think God gives us gifts in the talents that we have as individuals in our lives.
Yes.
That's God giving us a gift.
Yes, I like what he's saying, because guess what? Remember, we were talking about it being reciprocal, where God speaks the language to you and we speak the language to him. I don't know if you've noticed, in church, some people prefer communicating by giving gifts.
Yes.
So if the church needs something,
yes, they
actually give the gifts.
Yes.
Or even offering, as in they're very giving when it comes to that.
Yes.
They actually feel bad if they don't give a certain substantial amount of money to church.
Yes.
And that's your love language.
Between you and God. Yes.
And
It's not necessarily
actually,
about you and the church. It's what you're doing for God.
Yes.
And through the church. So yes, 100%. It's two-way reciprocal.
Yes.
Amazing. So the last one that we are on is acts of service.
Yes. That's an interesting one, because we've already kind of touched on it when we were talking about when we give to church.
Yes.
Some people prefer to serve in church.
Yes.
I've got a friend of mine. He's very good at plastering or tiling.
Yeah.
So what he did was he said to himself, you know what? I feel so grateful to God. And what I would do, whenever the church needs any jobs to be done, I will do it as a service to God.
Wow.
I won't ask for any money from them. And I thought that was such a powerful act of service. God also serves us. For example, when I was talking about my daughter, that's God serving me with what I need. I don't know if you can think of any other examples where you felt like God is serving you.
Yes, I mean, I think when God also places us in the right situations at the right time, sometimes we don't realize that is God as an act of service, placing us from one disaster and putting us into a glory and moving us from one glory to another glory. That's God's way of showing his presence in our lives, showing that he's actively doing things in our life to progress us and to make us better people. So every single day that we take advantage of little things, but those are to me personally, I believe anyway, that's God's way of showing his act of service to you, that I wake you up in the morning, I transport you in your car, I get you to work. When you're at work, I give you the strength for you to, even when you're tired, those days when you're exhausted but you just have the energy, that's God giving that to you. He's acting on your behalf and giving you the strength for you to be able to get through each single day. And so for me, that's an act of service for God, to the point where you come back and sometimes we say in a blasphemous way, we say, oh, thank God for that day, or thank God for that. But when we're saying those things, it's all those little things every day that we're going through that we're thanking God for the things that he is doing for us.
Absolutely.
So amazing.
Oh, that's amazing.
This has been amazing. I mean, honestly speaking, I hope that everybody has managed to learn something from this. And I think the love languages, it's going to keep on developing. We've got more episodes to come in other areas, but what I think is so important for each and every one of us to know, like you said, is to understand what our love language is in any particular situation. If it's a relationship, to understand what it is in that relationship that you want to receive, and what it is that will make you feel valued in that relationship. If it's a relationship with God, understand what it is that you need from God, and what God needs from you for that relationship to be a healthy relationship. So these lessons about love languages are just amazing. Honestly, they're amazing.
Yes, I like what you're saying, because I think one challenge we have, including myself and you, I think one challenge we have now is probably try some of the dialects. Now that we know that God does speak to us, and we can also speak to Him, find out what your dialect is.
Yeah.
If it's acts of service, make sure you try and just serve for God.
Yes.
If it's giving gifts, try to do that. If it's quality time, just take a walk down the park. As you're walking down, try to spend that time with God.
Yes.
Or whenever you capture yourself by yourself, on your own, when you feel like, oh, I'm lonely, instead of feeling depressed, change it into a prayer.
Yes.
Change it into meditation.
Yes.
Try out these new dialects and see what suits you.
Yes. Amazing. Well, thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in onto this episode on the 5 languages in religion. It's been amazing. I've been a host, but we thank you so much for Gertis for bringing all this educational content, and we hope that everybody can enjoy it and continue to enjoy it. And if you have any particular things that you want to learn, please get in touch. Let Gertis know, and we will definitely try to make some content for you. And most importantly, like, share, and subscribe below. And thank you very much, and thank you for having me on this platform.
It's been a privilege for me. Thank you.